It's story time! Gather around because today we have a delightful tale to share. Today we're going on an adventure with a friendly cap seller who loved to travel and meet new people. He had a big basket full of colorful caps, each one more vibrant than the last. Red caps, blue caps, caps with feathers. There was a cap for everyone.
One sunny morning, I decided to go to the market. The sun was shining brightly and the birds were singing. I wanted to sell my amazing caps to all the people in the bustling market. I put on my own favorite cap, a bright yellow one, which always made me feel cheerful, and set off on my journey, feeling excited about the day ahead.
He walked through a field of sunflowers taller than him. The bright yellow petals seemed to wave at him as he passed. He skipped over a little stream, making a splash. The cool water felt refreshing on his feet. Finally, he reached a shady forest. The trees provided a welcome break from the sun. It was a long walk and the cap seller was tired. His legs ached and he needed a rest.
Maybe it's time for a nap, he thought. A short rest would do me good. He found a comfy spot under a big shady tree, perfect for a little break, and laid down his basket of caps beside him, making sure they were safe. Time for a little snooze. He closed his eyes and drifted off, dreaming of the adventures yet to come.
The warm sun and gentle breeze soon lulled the cap seller to sleep. He had been walking for hours, selling his colorful caps to anyone who would buy them. Exhausted, he found a shady spot under a large tree and decided to take a short nap. He was snoring softly, dreaming of selling all his caps. In his dream, he saw himself becoming the most famous cap seller in the land, with people lining up to buy his caps. High up in the tree, a group of mischievous monkeys were watching. They had been observing the cap seller for a while, curious about the colorful items he carried. They had never seen so many colorful caps before. The bright reds, blues, and yellows fascinated them.
Curious, they swung down from the branches. Their eyes sparkled with excitement as they got closer to the caps. One by one, the monkeys crept closer to the sleeping cap seller. They moved quietly, trying not to wake him up. They giggled and pointed at the caps. The sight of so many caps lying around was too tempting for them to resist.
One brave monkey snatched a red cap and put it on his head. It looked so funny. The other monkeys laughed and clapped their hands in delight.
Soon, all the monkeys were trying on the caps. They were having a great time, each monkey picking a cap that suited their fancy. They wore them on their heads, their tails, even their feet. The caps were everywhere, and the monkeys looked like a circus troupe. They were having so much fun, but they didn't realize they were about to cause a big problem for the cap seller. The caps were his livelihood, and without them, he would be in big trouble. The cap seller woke up with a start, feeling the warmth of the sun on his face. He rubbed his eyes and looked around, trying to shake off the remnants of sleep. Where were all his caps? He had left them right beside him. Then he looked up and saw the monkeys. They were perched high in the trees. They were wearing all his caps. Each monkey had a cap on its head, looking quite pleased.
My caps, how did you get them?
Cried the cap seller, his voice echoing through the forest. He jumped up and tried to grab his caps back, stretching his arms as high as he could. But the monkeys were too quick. They darted away, swinging effortlessly from branch to branch. They swung from branch to branch, their caps bobbing up and down, almost mocking him. The cap seller was frustrated. He couldn't believe what was happening. He jumped up and down, waving his arms wildly, hoping to scare the monkeys.
Give me back my caps, please.
He shouted, his voice filled with desperation. But the monkeys just copied him. They mimicked his every move. They jumped up and down, waving their arms just like he did, almost as if they were playing a game. The cap seller realized shouting wasn't working. He needed a new approach. The monkeys were just mimicking him. They found his actions amusing. He needed to come up with a clever plan to get his caps back, something the monkeys wouldn't expect. But what could he do? He pondered deeply, searching for a solution. The cap seller thought long and hard. Then he smiled. He knew exactly what to do.
He took a deep breath and pretended to be very sad. He slumped his shoulders and put his hands on his head.
The monkeys tilted their heads, watching him curiously. They had never seen anyone so sad before.
The cap seller then pretended to throw his own yellow cap on the ground.
He watched as the monkeys looked at each other, confused. Then, one by one, they started throwing the caps down from the tree. They were copying the cap seller, just like before.
The cap seller couldn't believe his eyes. His clever plan was working. He quickly gathered all his caps, a big smile spreading across his face.
The monkeys watched from the tree as the cap seller put his yellow cap back on his head. He was so happy to have his caps back.
He waved goodbye to the monkeys and continued on his journey to the market.
The cap seller learned a valuable lesson that day. Sometimes, shouting and getting angry isn't the answer. Sometimes, you need to use your cleverness and think outside the box to solve a problem.
He also learned that monkeys, while mischievous, can be surprisingly good at copying. He chuckled to himself, thinking about the funny monkeys wearing his caps. It was an adventure he wouldn't soon forget.
And so, the cap seller went on to sell all his colorful caps at the market. He told everyone the story of the mischievous monkeys, and they all had a good laugh. Remember, it's always good to be clever and use your imagination, just like the cap seller. And now it's time to close your eyes and dream of colorful caps and playful monkeys. Sweet dreams.